Twitch streamer Kai Cenat was supposed to do a meet and greet and a giveaway at Union Square. Guess what? It, of course, predictably went south because they're massively successful, massively popular content creators, and it turned into a riot. Breaking. Large crowd at Union Square spotted hurling objects, setting off fire extinguishers. Watch live coverage now.
Try to zoom in with our camera there and get a better look. And you can see, again, it's that grouping here. We'll start.
This is wild. This is crazy. Look at this mayhem, dude. This is insane, dude. People are fighting in the crowd. It's not a riot, it's a rally. Nah, this ain't right. People getting jumped. Cars are getting broken into. Businesses are straight looted. All because Kai Cenat wanted publicity. Shaking my head. Okay, businesses are starting to get looted. What the? You know what this is? This is racist, okay? Straight up. Yeah, they're rowdy. They're rowdy teenagers. They're making it seem like this is an organized crime ring. The one time you see like a bunch of black teenagers around, you're like, oh my God, guys, businesses are being looted. Bro, that is insane. I can't believe he's like diving into that crowd. What the fuck? What is happening? This is fucking mad. Did the cameraman die? What is going on? Let me tell you something, okay? The bedlam and the chaos caused when it's like organized sport event and a celebration is never reacted to in a similar capacity when it's like black teenagers involved or black people involved in general. Oh, look at them swarming. Oh my God. Dude, he's gonna die. This is crazy. This is January 6th. This is crazy. Look at the size of this fucking crowd. This is actually very dangerous. Okay, I'm sorry. It's hard for me not to be a fucking boomer here. This is literally how crowd crush happens. This is so fucking scary. God damn it. I'm sorry. I'm 32 years old. On the one hand, I'm conflicted because like this is kind of sick. But on the other hand, you have to have like proper venue for something like this. That congestion is untenable. That is how crowd crush happens. That's terrifying. I hope nothing bad happens. I do hope that no one dies. Holy fuck. Holy moly. Right now, there's two different things that they need to do. One, they need to stop additional people from gathering into the crowd and making the crowd larger. Two, they need to start pulling slowly but surely. You can't do this with like tear gas. You can't do this with like actual fucking anti-riot measures because then that chaos will actually make the crowd crush happen. It will make it way more likely. So you have to slowly but surely start pulling people from the outsides and just like open it up as best as possible. I feel conflicted because a Twitch streamer having this level of power and prominence is crazy. Why is Hasan hating on Kai? I'm not. If anything, people are going to get mad at me for being too nice about the situation because like this could be technically very troublesome. I'm not hating on him at all. I'm literally in the middle of like fucking saying like it's wild that he has this level of influence, so much so that it like got out of control even though he had good intentions. I think we are now officially in an era where like if you're a Twitch streamer, if you're a live streamer that is like large enough, you have to do this in a professional way. I think Kai being black and his audience being like black as well also will factor into the way that the media covers this. You know what I mean? Because people will immediately be like, oh, this is gang activity. Like when the Nelk Boys does something like this or when Mr. Beast does something like this and it gets out of control, they're white, their audiences are white. So it's like, oh, these are kids that are being crazy. I mean, fucking influencers, who gives a shit? They're crazy. They should stop that, right? People will be critical of it, but they will not be critical of it in the same way that they're going to be critical of this because we've seen stuff like this happen time and time again. But the reality is that the coverage on it is always going to be teens are excited to see their creator, which is true. That is what's going on. And, you know, maybe there will be some legal repercussions, but the way that this will be received by a broader audience will absolutely be seen from the lens of white supremacy. They're going to be like black agitators. Look at what they're doing to cops. Like you're going to see Fox News coverage on this shit going crazy. I can see Donald Trump talking about this, being like, look, crime in New York City. Crime in New York City. Look, when I was president, I wouldn't have allowed this to happen. Joe Brandon. Of course, people with time to watch people play video games all day would also have time to go out and cause a riot, get a job. Telling people to get a job when they're like very clearly 12-year-olds is pretty funny. Nobody's got anything better to do. They're all fucking children. You know what I mean? It's like, calm down. Look at this. Look, like they're all kids. Like you can tell they're all kids. There is nothing these fucking losers hate more than like teenagers getting rowdy. They fucking lose their minds, okay? Oh, Jesus. The Republican media is gonna fucking fucking, they're gonna make mincemeat out of this. Kai Cenat gets put in the back of a police car after a Union Square Park giveaway goes wrong. Is it him? I don't think that's him. Oh shit, it might be him. Yeah. The ABC 7 lady really wants to see Kai get arrested. Wait, really? Oh my God.
It has been a very difficult and touchy situation as we hear that police are now armed with pepper spray and batons. They have their helmets and gear on, whereas initially we saw officers who were not prepared to help get rid of this crowd in a fashion because it was just
what the fuck? Imagine the power that Mr. Beast has if this is what Kai can do. This has happened with Mr. Beast already. The only reason why you probably never saw the coverage of it is because, one, I didn't cover it, or two, Mr. Beast is more of a brand at this point. So it was at a mall. There was like security. There was a lot of like precautions they took, and it still got out of hand. But the most important part of this conversation is Mr. Beast is white and his fan base is white. This has happened with the Nelk Boys, which is a better comparison, or Logan Paul, which is a better comparison. And when those things actually also turned into a massive commotion, you don't get a lot of media coverage that you will see in this circumstance. This has happened time and time again. But the reason why there will be more media coverage on this is because bad faith political actors will turn this into a larger thing. Like, not that it's like an influencer who wanted to do a giveaway and then that giveaway turned into something more, right? And it got out of control. But instead, they'll be like, look at all these Zoomers that are out of control. Look at all these black teenagers that are out of control. Crime is out of control. This is the narrative that they'll run and make it a larger issue. Here, this was definitely a little bit more organized, but I'm pretty sure this was like chaotic as well, right? Yeah, look, there's like barriers. There's like shit ton of security. That's why comparing to Mr. Beast is not the best example, but instead compare it to like the Nelk Boys. Yeah, here.
Jersey Shore, and it's in the news now because it's the site of a potential super spreader of COVID.
They also covered this because it was like during COVID. They covered it like from the COVID angle.
That was organized by a group of YouTube pranksters. They call themselves the Nelk Boys. Then the cops showed up.
The reason why I'm showing this to you is so you understand like how the media covers different stories differently.
The multitude was drawn to the house by this video posted on social media by the popular YouTube personalities, the Nelk Boys. Go. Things got out of control pretty quickly.
The difference is our racist uncles are not going to know about the Nelk Boy shit. Plus the Nelk Boys are also like Trump supporters. But you definitely are going to hear from your racist ass uncle about this Kai Cenat boy. What's he doing? He doing a riot out there? All these black teenagers are running around looting businesses. They went into Walgreens. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to hear all bunch of different fucking insane shit. How come our big, beautiful president Donald Trump is going to jail for not inciting a riot on January 6th, which was just a regular tourist occurrence, but this Kai Cenat kid, he ain't going to jail. It's because he's black, isn't it? That's why. God dang liberals. Here's what's happening right now. They're getting things under control by arresting them. The maximum amount of violence, if there was no crowd crush or anything that happened there, the metric ton of violence that will occur on this day will happen at the hands of cops that are brutalizing and beating the shit out of teenagers, children. Now, do I think it is irresponsible? Do I think it got out of control? Absolutely. But let's be fucking really clear on this, okay? At first, due to fears that there would be additional commotion that would actually harm a bunch of people's lives, they didn't do a lot of like pushing and you know, tear gassing or anything like that, which was good. They were handling the crowd decently well. I hate to hand it to the NYPD in any capacity, but they were doing all right. Of course, now that the actual commotion is over because they successfully did this, now they're going to move on and start actually throwing bracelets at kids, beating the shit out of them.
This is video from earlier, to be clear, but Checky Beckford is standing by.
Oh no, a cop got hit in the face with a fucking water bottle, dude. Drop a nuke on him. According to the New York Police Department spokesperson, he is now in their custody, so it's confirmed. He is officially in the custody of the NYPD, okay? Cenat, a popular personality on Twitch and YouTube, was in law enforcement custody after a crowd of hundreds turned unruly after a promise to give away video game consoles. I think his suspicion was that like there would be like 500 people or like 1,000 people max or something. That's what someone in the chat was saying. I'm just glad that it didn't turn into a larger commotion. As far as I understand, the goal from AMP was to do a giveaway operation, stay off the streets and stream or something like that. That's what they called it. Their goal was to give like PlayStation 5s, gift cards for streaming equipment, things of that nature. Obviously, they were unsuccessful considering what happened. I don't think they foresaw it getting this out of control. You know what I mean? Like, here, let me explain something to you guys, okay? The water bottle being thrown at a cop, that's not great. It's not nice, right? They're showing that as like gross depictions of violence. They're like fucking trying to kill cops. Look at this. And then they glance over imagery of police officers arresting people, arresting teenagers with their fucking entire body weight on them. What do you think is more violent? Getting hit in the head by a fucking water bottle or like being physically apprehended and handcuffed? One is seen as a violent act because it is against cops, which currently hold the state's monopoly of violence. That is seen only as a violent act if you're going against the cop. If the other side of that happens, if a cop actually is like apprehending you, cop actually is beating the shit out of you, that's not considered violence. That's considered the norm. The state's monopoly of violence and the way that violence is interpreted through the lens of the fucking population is not a new concept. There are numerous different kinds of violent acts. There's also structural violence, like the structural violence of poverty, okay? There's also direct acts of violence. As far as direct acts of violence goes, it doesn't matter. If a cop is engaging in it, then it's considered normal. It's considered the norm. If a person who's not a police officer doing it against a police officer, that's considered the most egregious act of violence that you can engage in. Looks like the NYPD called out 1,000 officers to deal with an estimated crowd of 2,000. Yeah, they were saying it was 8,000, but I think it was less than that. But still, it was a crazy scene. It definitely got out of control. It could have been much, much worse. And I'm glad that it didn't. Okay, that's it. Unless there's like additional information that I'm not privy to. Anyone that's like taking this above and beyond, utilizing this for like additional narratives about how like violent black teenagers are out of control or crime is running rampant in big cities is a fucking silly bitch. It was rowdy for approximately an hour. And at first the cops were doing a decent job of like dispersing the crowd without using any violent tactics. And then the riot gear came. So now it's like hunting for sport time. You know what I mean? Now they're collecting double overtime. You know what I'm saying? What's the operational budget of the New York City Police Department? Whoo! Whoo! $29 million a day, baby. Whoo! That's it. That's what you get for 29 mil. What are you going to do? You're just fucking, dude, a lot of that. A lot of double overtime, baby.
Within the Union Square, people broke into
Holy
the park
shit.
and they began to throw articles that belong to the construction site, paint cans, bottles, rocks. You had people walking around with shovels, axes, and other tools from the construction
Dude,
trade.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, dude, the teenagers had axes. They wanted to chop police heads off. I died. A teenager killed me. I'm actually a ghost. We had to defend ourselves against rowdy teenagers. Guys, we had to defend ourselves. Said it was a violent and kinetic situation where a bunch of teenage men, fully grown adult teenager children, men, were violently and tactically putting us in a kinetic circumstance that we had to react in appropriate, aggressive manner. Would you be covering this the same way if it had been Jason Aldean and a bunch of hogs? Would I be covering this the same way if it was a bunch of adult men, probably armed, in like a southern state? No. You want to know why? Because stuff like that happens all the time. Except the cops don't do anything. Because why the fuck would they? They're in the crowd. Last time this happened, it was an insurrection in January 6th. Kai Cenat is being charged with inciting a riot, unlawful assembly, and more. He will be charged with multiple counts after a video game giveaway led thousands of people to overrun Union Square Park on Friday. Police say he will be charged with at least 2 counts of inciting a riot, unlawful assembly, among others. During an evening brief, authorities said 64 people were arrested, including 30 juveniles. 30 juveniles were arrested. The event was unpermitted, not sanctioned, and grew rapidly to thousands of young people who NYPD Chief Department Jeffrey Maddie said attacked officers instead of complying with orders to leave. The chief implored parents to step in. I had thousands of kids out there. I needed thousands of parents, Madry said. When it gets to the point where it's disorderly, we want the parents to come and take control. 3 officers were injured during the mayhem, 2 of which were taken to a nearby hospital. 1 sergeant suffered a broken hand. Over the last few days, Cenat, one of the most popular streamers on the video game website, thousands of people showed up and took over the park and roads bordering it as police struggled to contain them. Just before 5 p.m., police had gained the upper hand on the crowd as many people began to disperse. NYPD sources told Eyewitness News they did not want to arrest people and they did not want to escalate the situation further. Despite that guidance, Eyewitness Eyewitness News observed several arrests made as prisoners were loaded onto an MTA bus. I personally observed young people walking out with their heads bleeding from their heads, bleeding from their faces. I personally observed young people having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, asthma attacks. People were suffering out here. It was a lot of people. It was uncontrolled. It took us a while to get it under control, and a lot of young people got hurt, Madry said. Bro, I love when they're like, a lot of young people got hurt, which is why, you know, we arrested 65 young people. One thing that we love to do when, you know, people are being hurt is like, well, where's our piece? You know what I mean? NYPD has recovered evidence from social media that Cenat was out of his vehicle and interacted with a large crowd before he left Union Square. Detectives are currently questioning him, but no determination has been made onto whether charges will be filed. To gain the upper hand on the mob, the NYPD flooded the scene and pushed the crowd away, making sure they didn't come back towards Union Square. Robert Boyce, former NYPD chief of detectives, said that it's important to understand that the streams of kids running away from people, they could create mayhem somewhere else. They have to be followed. He added, this isn't over by a long shot. There's a lot of work ahead. Holy fuck. They're like, there's a lot of work ahead. We are going to be arresting every 12-year-old in the 5 boroughs. Do you understand me? Upon arriving over the scene, Eyewitness News reporter Shannon Son in Newscopter 7 reported seeing groups of police officers holding up pieces of plywood and taking cover behind cars that were struck on the 14th Street because of the crowd as they were pelted by objects thrown from the mass of people. There was construction happening near the 14th Street subway station, and people in the crowd had grabbed and were throwing paint cans and other equipment. They climbed on top of the gazebo, which covers the subway, as well as George Washington statue, which depicts the former president riding a horse. Service has been resumed. A number of drivers were trapped in their cars and were surrounded by the crowd as it was shut down. A sheer number of people and their seeming desire to get a glimpse of Cenat and a group of people with him, which created a dangerous situation of massive people moving and shoving. A woman who arrived in Union Square on the subway with her baby daughter, run some errands, said it was really hectic. She waited it out, cowering in an ATM lobby, but to come and make a mess of not just the city. I understand if you're a Kai Cenat fan. Later, an SUV believed to be carrying Cenat drove away from the scene with about a dozen people who were hanging on the side and clinging on the top of the SUV. That was like the worst part, I think. I think that was the absolute worst part. Many of them were seen falling from the vehicle. Shortly after that, a bus on the 14th Street became the focus of a large part of the crowd, with some people climbing on top of the bus as they seemed to believe Cenat was inside. Police officers could be seen taking people into custody outside the bus, and video later showed people inside the bus apparently handcuffed. While police worked to set up a barricade, hundreds of people ran away. NYPD loudspeaker could be heard instructing people in the crowd to disperse. The crowd finally appeared to begin to disperse around 4:45. The NYPD said it recovered evidence showing Cenat was out of his vehicle and interacted with a large crowd before he left Union Square. What do you mean, like evidence? Yeah, he streamed it. Why are they making it seem like this was like secret? We uncovered damning evidence of Kai Cenat from the little-known website Twitch.tv, where he seemingly was streaming. Ultimately, the charges are understandable. They're trying to hit him with the book, which I get. It's a double whammy because, one, it's yet another influencer causing chaos with teenagers that want to go see him. In the eyes of the news and in the eyes of people in positions of power, older boomers, they see this as like, oh, we got to make an example out of this kid. Like, we got to do some deterrence, right? But also, he's black, and a lot of his fans are black. So then it's a double whammy because then it's like you're basically creating an opportunity for all the other people that are like, well, this is mob activity. These are thugs. You know, all the people that say that kind of shit are also out there looking for blood. Yeah, he did a bad job organizing this, obviously. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But ultimately, I would say, while he does bear some responsibility for the mismanagement and the misorganization, he will most likely have good lawyers talk down the charges, and there will absolutely be like a plea deal, and it'll be like a slap on the wrist, like a minor fine at the end of the day. Hello, if you're at this event and were assaulted by the NYPD, take photos of any injuries, go to the hospital and get a medical report, write down everything that happened, every single thing, get names and info for potential witnesses, and find a civil lawyer now. True, exactly. If you got your ass beat by a cop, you should absolutely sue the NYPD.
Chat, how much people you think gonna be there? 45K? 1,000, 5,000, 1,000, 10,000, 2,000, 10,000. Bro, there's no way I could pull out 10,000 people, bro. No. I feel like 500. Never. I'm gonna keep it crazy. Now, how much do you think gonna pop out?
He's like, oh, it's just 500. I'm sure he thought it would be more than that, but
first meet and greet ever. This is technically my first pop out shit. This is first meet and greet ever. This is gonna be crazy.
Bro, he should have listened to his homie though, for real. Like, cause he was right. And Kai was very wrong. His friend was like, dude, come on, be real. Be for real. You're fucking insane. 500? That's crazy.